ASP.NET technology is considered. Okay, so ASP.NET page class, this is the first topic which we have to learn. In this, we will come to know what is a page lifecycle and how it is required to understand it properly before creating any web page for your program. Okay, so ASP.NET page lifecycle. So what is a page lifecycle? A page lifecycle is yes. A page lifecycle is requested when a page is requested by the user. The request goes through the series of steps. The stages between the request and response of a page is called as page lifecycle. So in the framework, one of the slide of the framework PPT, we understood that when any request from client is being sent to the server, which is running with server-side scripting technology. So what it does is it is getting compiled so that it is actually producing an HTML along with whatever the CSS plus HTML so that it can render on the browser properly. So this is the basic single aim of any web server, any server-side scripting technology or any web server. It can take all the requests from the client, then it can manipulate the response in the format of an HTML, and it will be sent to the client. So the same thing is being done at the server side, but before sending that information, we can have some trigger points, or we can have some handles where we can like instruct the code to do this thing, or to deallocate some memory, or to refer some additional library. In that way, we can have some additional information that can be attached in the given life cycle. Okay, so the page lifecycle says when a page is requested by the user, the request goes through the series of steps. So this is the point to understand. So here we are going to have some series of triggering points. These are some triggering points where we can attach our code. Accordingly, it can be implemented as per your requirements. So the stages between the request and response of a page is called as page lifecycle. So entirely from the phase of the memory loading to the unloading, there are some certain events that are attached, and from starting to ending, we can say that as the page is following the page lifecycle. Okay, so in the simple terms that you need to understand, first one is the request. What is the request? It starts the life cycle of the page. The request is generally sent by the user. And the second one is response, which actually ends that life cycle, and this response will be generally sent by the server. So in that way, you can have the clear distinction between the request and response. So request means whenever any request is, whenever any resource is being asked to the server, that is considered as request. But whereas after processing that request, some content is to be delivered to the client. So that particular content delivery mechanism is basically called as response, and response will be given by the server. How to initiate a request? If you have created any sequence diagram in the software engineering UML diagrams, you must be understanding that how to create a sequence diagram and why it is important. So by specifying with a sequence diagram, we can have the mechanism of page life cycle so that it can be easily understood. So how to initiate a request? When you type an URL in the browser address bar and press enter, the browser sent a page request to the server. So whenever we are going to have any request to the server, the browser is actually sending that request in the format of an URL, by hitting to an URL, and this request is going to be received by the server. Then the same thing we can draw in the format of sequence diagram. Okay, so there is a user. This user actually types some URL. He gives a resource identifier to the browser. Then what it does is the HTTP GET request is served to the server, and the server, after processing that information, it will give back the information. Okay, uh, it will give back the information. Similarly, if any request with the post object, that means if you want to send some information in an embedded fashion, so the post request is again sent by the user, and accordingly the data will be processed by the server at the web server. Then the returning information is again sent to the browser. So in that way, whether you use the GET request, or if you take the post request, or if you are using the patch, or if you are using the delete command or update command, so all these are actually being sent in this way. For all those requests, the browser is able to connect to the server. The server is identifying that which kind of verb is that, whether it is a get, post, delete, patch, update. So all these verbs are getting identified by the HTTP server. Corresponding action is being done, and then finally the output is being sent to the user. So the output is finally received by the user in the format of HTML plus CSS plus JavaScript. So this is how the page life cycle we can understand by using the sequence diagram. Okay, so by using the sequence diagram, so these are the steps, and you can see all these are sequential. All these are sequential means simultaneously you cannot fire get and post at the same time, because all these are actually triggered by the in a sequential manner. By completion of each second, you can trigger many of the requests. So all these requests are actually not parallel requests. They are only some sequential kind of requests that are going to be sent to the server, and all these many requests are getting processed by the web server. Then you are having the result back after some time. So you are getting result back after some time. So this way we can have our ASP.NET page lifecycle, which is demonstrated by using a simple sequence diagram. Then when this particular page request is requested, when this particular page is requested in the web server, certain events are actually lined up. So you can see all these requests that are lined up here. Certain requests that are looking up for the triggering, that are looking for the triggering point of suppose this particular page is just requested, then this trigger is being called. Suppose the page is perfectly loaded with all the initialization, then this particular trigger is loaded. So in that way, all these triggering mechanisms are given in the format of functions or the page events. Okay, so all these are actually nothing but they are functions, but all these are actually called as page events. Okay, so page events are actually identified with their name: page request, start, page initialization, load, validation, postback event, rendering, unloading. So all these are features actually. So these features are actually mapped to a particular function, so that whenever you want to validate something, you are simply attaching that information in the validation part of the function, and thereby before loading entire objects into the memory of the page object, the validation can be successfully done. Okay, so पेज को लोड करने के पहले ही आप वैलिडेशन करके आप data, whether it is proper or not proper, you can hint back the user by specifying with an error. So all these are very important because these are actually tied to particular triggering mechanisms, And here you can see the page request, the request occurs before the page life cycle begins. So this is the first one where nothing is there in the memory, and this particular page life cycle, whenever we are going to tick start, so this page request event is getting handled. Then start. In the start step, page properties such as request and response are set. Okay, so in the start method, that means page underscore start is a method, page underscore start method, in which the request as well as response objects are actually being created, and they are set with any past information, if at all it is there. Then page initialization. During page initialization, controls on the page are available and each control's unique ID property is set. So during the page initialization, suppose you have taken a button, what should be the text of the button, what should be the color of the button, what should be the length and width of the button. All these initializations are being applied at this level. So in the page initialization level, so you are going to attach with all the formatting. Suppose you have a drop down. So um, what are the listing elements in that particular drop down, and which one is selected, and what is the length. So all these particular information is being attached while the page initialization method is loaded into the memory. Then, so the load method is actually uh, loading all the properties and information which is actually set in the previous request. That means you can work on a single page multiple times. Suppose at first time you are selecting a radio button, then after some time you are selecting some drop down list, then after some time you are entering some text in a text box. So in these information is entirely filled up. Then after submitting, this information is going to be posted to the server. Okay, but after processing by the server, if any error is there, the same page with all that information is again sent back to you. So that naturally happens automatically, and you have to maintain that state. Suppose you are filling up a registration form, and many a times what happens, you are giving the date of birth as in a different format, or you have missed out the email ID in the required email address format, maybe something like that, or you have missed out some valid information which is required. So all these kind of information, while processed at the server side, it will come to know there is some mismatch with the page information, and to correct that information, it will be sent back to the user. So what happens then all that information is again reloaded by the browser only for your sake. Okay, you don't have to retype it again, it will be reloaded for you, and the corrections you have to take care. So this part is actually done by the load method, because it has to know all the previous information, and accordingly it will set with the present information. So in that way it will be done. Then validation. So validation puts an important triggering point. You can validate all the methods if you are using the validation controls in the ASP.NET, and without coding, you can simply check whether all the controls are completely valid with their information, or something is missing in that. So thereby, to validate from the JavaScript coding, or to validate from the server side coding, the effort is somewhat reduced. Even though you have to validate it at the server side again, but in the previous days, JavaScript validation was the most popular one, where everything is first of all validated by the JavaScript code, whether this text box is filled up with information or it is blank, or email address is in proper format or not, whether the currency is in the digital format or not. So all these are the validations, and these validations are actually uh, we can check from the ASP.NET page lifecycle itself before it is going to the server side. So it actually reduces the network trip, then it reduces the effort of the developer, then it increases the responsiveness of the page. So in that way, it is the validation keeps an important point. When all of the information is actually preloaded, then you have to validate whether it is proper or not to send before before sending to the server. Then post-back event handling. If the request is a post-back, any event handlers are called. So one is there which is called as load method, and one is post-back. Post-back means reloading of the same page after sending some information. Okay, so that is called as post-back. Suppose you got a button. After submitting that button, the button takes you to the same page again after reloading by the browser. So that is called as post-back. So what happens in the post-back is the information is actually sent to the server, but the page navigational URL doesn't change. The page navigational URL is same, and you are going to reload the same page again, but with the running of the functionality, whatever you have posted to the server. Then comes with the rendering. Rendering is there to display the content, on the web browser. So how it has to be rendered, the colors, the themes, the graphical user interface which you see on the browser. So all these are the part of the rendering. So every control is being rendered in this triggering point. So naturally, whenever any page request is being done from the client, so all these ASP.NET page lifecycle triggering mechanisms will be kicked in automatically. Okay, so this is a natural phenomena, and starting from the page request, then comes with the start, then page underscore init, page underscore load, page underscore validate. Okay, then post back, page underscore pre-render, post render. So they come under the rendering method. Then page underscore unload. So these methods are actually kicked in, and if anything is written in those functions, they will be processed. So if anything that you are writing in those methods, then only they will be processed. Otherwise, the methods will be loaded into the memory. But if there is nothing in the memory to process actually, then it will skip to the second method, then to the third method, then finally unload method is called before the memory is being wiped out. The page object allocation is being wiped out from the memory. Okay, so in that way the general page lifecycle goes for the .NET framework, and we will see with some examples also in the practical slots if things permit. So how they will be different from each of the method. What is the page start and the page validate, page load. So there are some custom functions that are given by the ASP.NET, so that if you have anything, suppose you are creating a component. So while creating the component, you have to design by yourself, because this is not a .NET framework component. You have to design, you have to render as per, because you are the creator of that particular component. So you will be having some methods accessibility, so that you are initializing that component, you are rendering that component as per your requirements. So for that sake, these many triggering points are given, and wherever you want to have some processing on that control, you can provide that implementations in the respective methods. Okay. So these are the methods that we are discussing. So page event, there is an event, and you can see the handler, and the stage is also there. Okay, so the event is pre-init, which is actually handled by the .NET framework with this function name page underscore pre-init, and this is a part of the page initialization. Page initialization means this one. So this page initialization will be having a couple of methods here, a couple of functions, couple of function handlers, event handlers actually they have, but they are nothing but the simple functions. So as they are targeted for the events, that means some triggering event, that's why they are called as event handlers, but they are simple functions. In the normal programming language, they are nothing but the functions. So page initialization will be having page pre-init, page underscore init, page init complete. So three stages are there, which are assigned with init complete. One is before initialization, this one One is during the initialization. Suppose during the initialization, if you want to cross check with any other information, or if you want to assign with integer I is equal to 0 or something like that, you can put that kind of initialization here. And when that initialization is completed, this event is getting triggered. Then load method, you can see on the right side, load method is having four event handlers. One is page preload, one is page load, then any of the data aware control is posting back the information. Suppose there is a country drop down list which is selected by the user, then accordingly the information is being changed in the page, and the page actually gets reloaded with the corresponding states. Suppose I have selected country India, then accordingly all the states of the India are getting loaded. And finally page load complete. So in that way the load is having four different triggers, event triggers or event handlers, where you can write your own methods. Okay, so where you can assign something or you can cross check something. So those things can be done in those event handlers. Similarly, rendering, page pre-render, page save state complete, and page render, and finally page unload. So all the memory of the accessed controls, their state, their properties, and any attached information with that, they all will be removed once this page is moved to unload method. Okay, so that means before object is getting dereferred, this page unload event handler will be called, and as soon as it is called, the memory allocations for this particular page, जितने भी आपने पेज इनिशियलाइजेशन में और लोड में जितने भी आपने एक्सेस करके रखे हैं, so all those will be dereferred and your page will be will not be there anymore, because it is the memory is going to be grabbed by the GC. So in that way the page lifecycle stages are there for some different stages. One is for the initialization, second one is for the load and rendering. This is where the actual output is being generated to the browser in the format of HTML. Then finally, after sending that response, the page memory will be reclaimed by the GC, garbage collector. So this is how we can see the page life cycle of the ASP.NET. And we generally, most of the times we are using either page load method, sometimes page init. If you are working with the master pages or some other controls components, then this will be the page init will be the event handler where you put all the master page initialization information, and page load will be there whenever you want to get access your control, so that to populate the countries information with all the countries data which is coming from database. Then during the page unload you may derefer some objects. So in that way some different event handlers we have to frequently use them while you do the ASP.NET programming. Okay, so page lifecycle, page request. The page request occurs before the page lifecycle begins. When the page request is requested by the user, the ASP.NET determines whether the page needs to be parsed and compiled, or whether a cached version of the page can be sent in response without running the page. This particular topic we already discussed, because in the .NET anything is only first time compiled. Okay, so anything is only first time compiled. So before you are accessing the same page again, the .NET determines whether the page is already there. If it is there, whether it is available in the cache or not. If it is not there, then it has to be parsed and compiled. So these decisions will be quickly taken before it is being sent to the web server. So between the client and between the web server, there will be a cache server which we can keep, or some cache objects which are working across for all the incoming requests. So they will check whether any previously generated request was there available in the memory. If it is there, directly, suppose I will draw here. So this is a cache. This is a web server. Okay, so the cache here and client browser. So B is for the browser. Okay, so when the user requests something, it actually goes through the cache object, and this request is already generated previously by the web server, that will be stored in the format of a cache. So then what happens naturally, the second request will not go to the web server again and again, whereas it will directly send from the cache server or the cache object. So in that way, half of the time is entirely cut down. Half of the time is entirely cut down, because even though it is processed by the web server, 100% of the page is looking like this. Whatever the previous output response which we have during the first execution, the same format is going to be given by the web server anyways. So thereby we are not, what we are doing is we are directly taking it out from the cache and sending it to the browser. So thereby the responses from the subsequent responses will be very faster. So during the page request, they will be checked whether the cache is there, and if it is there, how to take out that information and to send to the proper client. So all those decisions will be taken in the page request. The start method, in the start step, page properties such as request response are set. At this stage, the page also determines whether the request is a postback or a first time request. Okay, so we can check with this property also, is postback. In the practical, we will see with this example. So page dot is postback is a property by which we can assess whether this is a postback page or it is for the first time execution. So these kind of statements will be there in the start method. Then page initialization. During the initialization, as we have discussed, we can initialize the controls, your components, and all the themes, and anything which is applicable during the initialization. So all those will be run, and the postback data has not yet been loaded, and control property values have not been restored to the values from view state. So there is a concept called as view state. Sometimes we can store the information in the page itself. So that is called as view state information. We will see that when the topic actually comes, the state management. Okay, so the information is looked up in this view state, the cache objects, or in the session object. Okay, so there are some different locations where we can fetch the information, and all that information is initialized before we can call that page is actually is being loaded. Okay, so then one more trigger is load. Load is loaded with the information recorded from the view state and control state. Okay, so whatever the default values are getting loaded from view state, but from the programmer side, if anything is written manually, they will be again taken care of during this load method. So by this time of load method, everything is actually loaded into the memory. Okay, so the load means only in the memory, not in your browser. Memory of the web server, all these things are actually getting collected, they are getting processed, they are getting referred, and they are creating a structure, and thereby it can process on the basis of the available information. So that's what happens when you actually your web server is getting loaded with a particular web page. Okay, so this is not the load of the web browser. So finally, after the unload method, only your browser will be showing up with the information. But we are talking in terms of the ASP.NET, so that's why all these are actually happening at this site. You have to remember this. Okay, so whatever the page request, start, page initialization, load, unload, all these are happening in this web server's memory. Web server's inbuilt memory, all these are happening not at the browser side. The browser side will only get the HTML response. That is, after the complete page lifecycle is done by the web server, then only the information is sent to the response, sent in the format of a response to the client, and which will be loaded by the browser. Okay, so we are not talking in terms of the browser, but we are talking in terms of the web server's processing cycle. So that's why the load is not the load of your web browser. It is loaded in the memory of the web server. So with all the postback information, with all the view state information, control information, the things are actually loaded up in the memory of the web server. Then after all the information is available, the web server can actually do the validation. Validation means whether that given text box is filled up with some information or it is missing, which is completely blank. Okay, so whether the radio button is selected or not. So all these particular validation is applied in this validation event handler, and you can check with the property page.isValid. So this is also one property, page.isValid. If it is valid, then only the page will be sent for the further processing. Otherwise, it will simply give an error. Okay, so isValid property will be checked in the validation event handler. Then after this particular event and after this particular validation, postback event handling can be called if the request is a postback. So as I have told, first one is executed only for the first time execution is there. Then onwards corresponding 2, 3, 4, these are the subsequent requests. Okay, but the page is same. When the page is being compiled or run for the first time, it is not the postback, but after this particular first time execution, how many times the page is getting reloaded, all these are called as postbacks of that particular page. So that means the information is posted to the server and it got back some information again. Then that information is sent back to the server. Again, it was loaded with some additional information. Again, it was sent to the server. Again, it was reloaded by another information. In that way, the postback mechanism will be worked. And during this postback event handling, you can again check with some validation methods are successful or not. All these are actually we can cross verify in this postback event handling, and as well as you can load up with some additional information also as per your requirements. Okay, so after this validation we have the postback event handling. Then rendering. Rendering means finally your output is being prepared. That means suppose you are drawing on a canvas, everything is colored, everything is drawn, neat sketch is being drawn on the canvas. So something like that we can understand for the rendering. So the rendering of the each control, you can see each control and each of the component, their background color, the text, the loaded information for that corresponding data aware control. All these are actually taken care of by this event handler, which is actually segregated in 3 sections: pre-render and post-render. Okay, so in that way, it is having all the functionalities delivered, and finally, when the entire page is fully ready, okay, so that means the rendering part is completely done, then only it will be sent to the client. Okay, and after sending to the client, the response and request objects are unloaded so that your memory will be reclaimed for another page request. Okay, so got the idea? So how this particular page, ASP.NET page lifecycle is actually maintaining the information, processing the information. It was separated in different event handlers. All these event handlers we can see from this. Okay, so page pre-init, page underscore init, init complete, preload, load, save state complete, render, unload. Some of the popular methods are there, and each of the event handler what actually it is targeting, that also we have discussed. The page request is there, where you can have your response and request objects are created. Okay, then start method is there, then page initialization method or event handler is there, then load is there, validation, postback event handling, rendering, and finally unloading. Okay, so I think everybody is following properly. So the same we can see by using a neat diagram from here. So first of all, page object is created from .aspx file. So when you code the page, it is actually taking the UI page.aspx, which will be then sent for the processing in the by the web server, and web server will look up for this page.init, page underscore init. Okay, so if there is anything written in that page init, they will be processed. Otherwise, it will send to the page load. Okay, so what this page init is doing, controls are repopulated with information from view state, and then page load event happens, which actually deals with all the event occurrences of the page load where you want to take some actions. All these are actually triggered from here. Then page pre-render control information is stored again back in the view state, which is in the page. Then finally HTML page for is being generated, and after unload the response is sent to the user and the memory is again cleaned up. So the same thing we can understand from the previous given methods. So exactly this is the sequence how every page is being loaded again and again. हर एक पेज के लिए आपका इंफॉर्मेशन ये सारे इवेंट हैंडलर्स के थ्रू गुजरता है, and all these events are triggered automatically one by one, sequentially one by one for every page request, and all these happen in the memory of the web server. But for our endpoint, we just call an URL and URL will return something. But between these 2 points, there lies this much of information. Okay. So between these 2 URL hitting by a user and getting loaded with the information again in the browser, between these 2 phases, this much of life cycle happens regularly every time in this fashion, in this sequential fashion only. Then comes with the important objects of the page. ASP.NET offers some default page objects, and they are 5. There are 5 built-in objects for the page. ASP.NET page, it is having 5 built-in objects. What are they? First one is application, and the second one is session, third one is request, fourth one is response, and fifth one is server. And if you believe, whenever you are writing an ASP.NET page, you are coming across all these objects either at one place or at some another place. So that's why you have to take care of knowing each of the object, what it actually does and how it is important, why it can be written, why it has to be written in a given logic. So all these things we will come to know gradually. But before that, page object is actually a combination of 5 objects, which is with these given names: application, session, request, response, and server. Page class represents an .aspx file requested from a server that hosts an ASP.NET web application. So application object, whenever you are calling, it is actually getting the application context. Application context means for any given web application there is a unique context, and that context is called as application context. Okay, so it will be unique for each of the current running application. So अगर आपके पास 10 वेबसाइट्स हैं, तो 10 वेबसाइट सेम सर्वर से चल रहे हैं, हर एक वेबसाइट का एक डेडिकेटेड एप्लीकेशन ऑब्जेक्ट रन होता रहता है, एप्लीकेशन रन होता रहता है वेब सर्वर के अंदर. सो इन दैट वे वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड. So this application is unique for all the web pages of your current web application, and it is unique for your web application also. Things will not be changed when you store the information in this application. Second one is request. Request is nothing but we understood in the starting slide. It is a client generated request which is encapsulated in this way. This is a class. Okay, so that particular class object is being requested whenever we are calling this object. HTTP request is the class name. Through this we are going to create this request. Similarly, HTTP response is one more class object, one more class through which we are going to have this response object. So you don't have to initialize or instantiate again and again. आप अगर कोई भी ASP.NET का पेज रेडी कर रहे हैं तो HTTP response response is equal to new HTTP response ऐसा कुछ भी करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. Whenever you are creating with a page, all these are by default available. आपको by default directly आप response dot करके कॉल कर सकते हैं. इसको इंस्टेंशिएट करने की जरूरत नहीं because all these are pre-invoked in the memory. Okay, pre-initialized, pre-invoked in the memory. Where they are getting invoked? They are getting invoked here. Okay, so that's why you don't have to again and again bother for the creation of those objects. These are automatically available for you to program whenever you are working from a web page from the ASP.NET. Then comes with the server. It is also pre-built, and it is actually an instance of this particular class, which is given as HTTP server utility, and it gets the server object. Okay, so request and response are not for the server, they are only for the pages. You can see these are for the web pages. That means every page will be uniquely having a single request and a single response. Some different page will be having a different request and a different response. But whereas the server will be having a unique object which is available for that particular server. It is not for the application also. Application means एक सर्वर के अंदर 10 एप्लीकेशंस रन कर सकते हैं, बट सर्वर एक ही रहेगा. Similarly, the server object is actually the object which is available seamlessly, unique across all your web applications. But you can have the application context also by taking this application object. And finally, we have the session object also, which is user targeted base. Okay, so user target base, that means एक एप्लीकेशन को 10,000 लोग चला रहे हैं, यूज कर रहे हैं. ओके, सो वी may have 10,000 different sessions available in the ASP.NET web servers memory. So that is what the understanding. So contextually all these are different. Only these two represent the page objects. Okay, but page class offers all these objects by default, but request and response are actually related with the page object with the current request, and application is for the entire application context. Server is for the whatever the web server context you can access the information, and for session is across a given web page some numerous users might have got connected. So those individual users information you can store in this session as part of the object of this session. Okay, so in that way we can have application, request, response, server, session. All these are available by default from the page class.